Hello and welcome to the Juggling Podcast, Patreon exclusive, not really exclusive. I release it for everyone. I'm Luke Burridge. Thank you for supporting me on Patreon. Joining me, like normal, is Juliana. Say hello, Juliana.
Hello, everyone.
And today's a weird one. You just asked me, why do I say what you just asked me? Like, why do I call it the Juggling Podcast?
Yeah, you often say that.
Welcome to the Juggling Podcast. Just the Juggling Podcast. I don't know. Didn't really think of the name because I started this podcast in 2006 or something like that was the first juggling podcast, maybe 2007.
Yeah.
And it was back at the time when there wasn't more than one podcast about any topic.
Ah, I see.
You know what I mean?
So it was the definitive.
It was just it was the only one. It was the first one. So was like, oh, juggling podcast. Like the special thing about it was that it was a podcast, not that it was about juggling. You know, there's other things about juggling, and this is the podcast about juggling. Yeah. So it could just be the juggling podcast. Now there's many podcasts about every single topic.
Yes.
And now you have to come up with an in word for a podcast title.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so for example, I noticed this with Formula One podcasts. Every Formula One podcast, there is now a naming convention for a Formula One podcast, which is you take an aspect, like a bit of jargon from the race, and then that is the
pit crew.
Yeah, like the Pit Stop podcast, the Checkered Flag podcast, the Backmarkers podcast, the P1 podcast. And every podcast has its own little whatever that, again, you could just think of literally anything to do with it, sort of like virtual safety car podcast, and it's not about virtual safety cars, it's about Formula One, but that's actually a bad example. That's a terrible
So
one.
our podcast would actually be called
No, it's the Juggling Podcast because it was
podcast.
the first one. No, it can't be. No, there was one, Hugh from New Zealand.
Yeah.
He had one which is called Skip Six Podcast. Now that's a funny thing because people say, oh, I've learned 5 balls and I want to learn 7 balls, and but 6 is a different technique.
It's a different way, yeah.
So you just say, oh, skip 6, go to 7 because it's
fun.
like cascade to cascade. So Skip 6 is a funny a funny in joke.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's other juggling podcasts that people do, but it's fine just to be, juggling conversations or whatever it is.
341.
Yeah, the 441 podcast, the 531 podcast. There's a 531 festival.
Yeah.
All these different kinds of things. So yes, there are some numbers like the 423 is like it's like the pi day of juggling, if you know what I mean. All the mathematicians are like, oh, it's our day today, and 423, which is coming up next month. Either way, I want to thank our Patreon supporters, and let me just do that now. Oh, sorry if that was
a loud squeaky noise.
Hopefully it doesn't come onto here as well. So thank you to all the people who give us money on Patreon and the people who don't. But specifically, I want to give a big thank you to Marshall, who is a new $25. I think he upped his pledge to $25 a month.
Wow.
And that means, just to be clear, you get to pick a topic of a podcast.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he said, I want a podcast about juggling in the Olympics, and he obviously didn't understand that. Or maybe he hasn't looked at the back catalogue and understood that, or spotted that we did a whole podcast about that 2 years ago. Either way, we'll pick a good topic from that he wants here as well. Big thank you to Sid and Bethany and Callie and Chris and Danny and Flo and Hendrik and Joel and Matt Hall and Jeremy Geddes and Yuli and Juliana. 2 different people. Julia's one person. Juliana.
Yep.
Oh, Juliana, that's you. Thanks a lot for your support.
Yeah.
Thanks to Kathy and Keith and Mark and Meryl and Michelle and Mike and Rafa and Status27, the mysterious Mark. Thank you to... after that, everybody else is $1 or €1 or $1 New Zealand dollar or €1... No, $1.50 Canadian. So we're down into the other base. So thank you very much to all of our...
Thank you all as well. Even if we don't mention your name, you're very much appreciated. And also thank you
to the people who are followers on Patreon who aren't supporting financially. Thanks anyway. It's fun to have a bit of an audience out there. So yes, great. And currently this money is going towards... fixing the Fight Night website.
Oh, yes. Big
sorry
project.
if people are looking at the Fight Night Combat website and it's not working. I set this website up 13 years ago or something.
Ooh.
2011, 2012, I guess it would have been. Yeah, 2013. The version that's there now is probably from 2013. So let's say 11 years ago.
Yeah.
I set it up and it works great, and I just update it with tournament results and update the database and the pages.
You use the setup.
Yeah.
How much maintenance did you do on it?
Zero maintenance. Like now and then they'll be like, oh, this is going to update an IP address. And I'm like, great, it doesn't really affect me in any way. Yeah. But they're like, we're dropping support for this. And because I wrote this in an old version of Python with an old version of Django, which is the framework, with old version, like everything is like 10 years. Even at the time, I was just going for established, press one button in the web panel and it starts working. And now they're like, well, we're dropping support for that. So now you've got to get a virtual private server to do the same thing. And that's $15 a month to do that. I'm not going to do this long term, but just for now to get it working again, I'm spending a bit of money just on and maybe I'll move other websites around to make it not cost as much. Either way, thank you very much to Patreon supporters for throwing some money my way, because it means I don't have to worry about, oh no, if I sign up for something and it's going to cost. No, I'm just going to get it running again.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
That's the biggest objective right now.
All right, 5 minutes into this podcast.
Yeah.
Let's get on to today's topic.
We haven't actually talked about what we are going to talk about.
Well, now we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about.
Right.
We watched some YouTube videos, and
as we do.
And Juliana and I can watch a 5 minutes of a YouTube video, and it kicks off a half-hour discussion.
Oh, yeah.
And so half an hour into the discussion, I was like, not the discussion that we're going to have now, just a few minutes into the discussion that we're going to have now. But this part of the discussion came up after us chatting about stuff for about half an hour. But what did it come up to? Well, let's. I'm just going to quickly backtrack just to catch people up. We watched a video, and it was about strategies for problem solving or decision making.
That was only marginally to do with how we ended up in the conversation. The biggest step how we ended up was you saying like a comment or a quote by Neil Gaiman about his writing process, and how often you or anybody creating anything, you end up in certain cyclical repetitions or like certain habits that you keep like finding yourself. Or not, no, that's not actually true, because you are not seeing it. It has to be an outside person.
Yes.
Like you approach some outside person saying like, I can't continue. And then that outside person has to say, look, every single time you're doing this creation process, you end up at this point.
I remember it was looking at it's come up on the podcast before, Winter Garden Wednesdays, Martin from
Marble Machine.
Martin from Sweden and his marble machine.
Yes.
And he is stuck in this. Every year, 18 months, he goes through a new design process. Yeah. New lessons to be learned.
He reads books.
Yes, he gets enamored by a different design process. He learns CNC machining. No, not CNC machining. And then,
CAD.
Computer aided design and CNC and everything. Like everything that he's going to do is going to be the thing that gets the project over the line. And it's really, I mean, in some ways it's interesting and entertaining, but also he does seem to get stuck in this loop of starting, not quite doing it, getting deep into it. And there's a huge audience for this. And I was talking to, I mentioned this to Harrison Lowe, who's doing the Juggle bot. He's doing a juggling robot project.
All right.
And did we talk about this before? Anyway,
no.
I can't remember. I was seeing his live streams, and I was like, oh no, I can see in his future, he was sort of like, oh, maybe I'm just going to restart this project from scratch and rebuild this all from scratch. And I was like, no, don't start it all from scratch. Like, get the minimum. We know
where that leads to.
Yeah, what you always need to do is get to that minimum viable product, but not that, just sort of like a working prototype. Get something. You do this testing. Don't, just because a prototype failed doesn't mean that you have to go back to the drawing board anymore. You'll learn more lessons more easily by getting something, in this case with a juggling bot, that can throw and catch.
Yeah.
Make it so it can throw, or at least do a throw. Like, he didn't even get to the point where he could do a throw. So make it be able to do a throw. And once you've solved that, make it do a catch. And once you've solved that, you will rebuild it all from scratch. But this is what I was going through with my magnet machine. I had a version which was like this minimum viable thing. It was terrible to travel with. It broke all the time, but it was like a technology demonstrator that it was possible for me to get through a routine without it breaking, and with it work. And if everything worked perfectly, I could catch everything and it could make it work.
Yes,
but it was too heavy.
A proof of concept.
It was a proof of concept. And then when I actually was like, right, I'm going to recreate this again again from scratch. I relearned a lot of those lessons, but in the end, I have something which I'm very proud of and I enjoy performing on stage, and it fits into half a suitcase and it can be successful.
Yes.
I performed it 6-7 times now
Yeah.
with the new version, and every single time has gone better than every time with the previous version.
Yeah.
But what happens is that, and this was the quote that I said from Neil Gaiman,
Yes.
which was a quote which always stuck with me back when I was writing novels myself, was you would get to this 75% of the way through and you'd invested a lot into the characters, into the setting, into the ideas. You've got everything going there. And then you start panicking, going, well, I kind of know what I want to be happening at the end.
Yeah.
But how do I get from this 75% of the way through the story to that 85% of the way through the story where everything's coming together and then we can like land this plane or whatever?
Yeah.
And Neil Gaiman, there's this quote from Neil Gaiman. He's sort of like, every time I get into a novel, I get to this, I get to a point where I start giving up hope and I'm like, I can't do it. I've got to scrap it all. I've got to throw everything out and restart everything from the beginning.
Yep.
And he messages his agent or his editor about that. And the editor goes, let me show you the email that you sent me from the last 5 novels that you wrote. And each time you were at 75% of the way through the novel and you were about to give up hope.
Yes.
You were about to give it.
Yeah,
to give
it's a
up.
pattern.
It's a pattern.
But generally, while you're in the process, you don't see it.
Yes. The thing is, from the inside of a creative project, you don't know that there's light at the end of the tunnel because all you're seeing is what you're struggling with now.
Yeah.
And this is where I've been with this I was going to swear about it, this Anthony Gatto trick where I juggle and I throw the rings and catch them on a pole and then throw the big ball up and then throw the big ring onto the big ball. This trick.
Yes.
I just call it the Gatto ring and balance trick.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I've always been with these juggling tricks and these juggling routines. Like, it's there, I can do it, but why can't I? Like, I'm never going to get to the point where when I want to do something on stage, I want to be able to do it 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Or no more than 2 attempts. There's different ways of looking at it. Like,
right.
I'm allowed to, like, even if I don't get it for the first time and it's just like 1 out of every 10 times I try it, I don't get it. But that second time, like, there is a level with a finale trick or a part of a routine or a section of a routine where I'm like, I should be getting this with no mistakes 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't get, and I'm always stuck at that. Like, but why can I sometimes do it 3 times in a row, but I can't? Like, what? Why? Like, I know I can do this because I'll get it on the 3rd attempt.
Yeah.
But why can't I always get it on the 1st or 2nd attempt? And I realize I'm in that same stage, but it's so difficult to know from the inside.
But you're approaching it because now you figured out, okay, if I have the ring, especially the last ring, balanced on my shoulder, you obviously figured out.
We should do a separate video about that because I want to do a video about this balance pole because somebody asked me about that.
We're gonna go into that, but obviously you figured out that like because you have this struggle, there's something that you can solve it.
The thing is, I've solved this numerous times already.
Yes,
me having this extra ring, the final bigger ring.
Yeah.
I had this breakthrough in December, and I was like, well, the last throw is easier with this big ring. But the only place that I put it was like on my shoulder, which means that when I'm doing the 5 rings and the 4 rings, we'll do a whole video about it. But again, like, I know, like, not every other, 90% of the other juggling routines and finales that I've ever done I've got to the point where I can perform it on stage.
Yeah.
Or I can get away with it on stage, or it makes sense that it takes 2 tries in the show on stage.
Yes, that makes
sense. But then I'm like, maybe this is just too hard.
Yeah.
But I've thought this about every single trick.
Of course.
Every single routine. Maybe this is just too hard. It's like, no, you've just got to stick with it for another few months. You will have that breakthrough. And like the Brun finale trick.
Yeah.
The breakthrough will come.
Okay. Well, the conversation we had on the couch was also about how many things.
Okay, we're going straight there, are we? Okay, let's wrap this up though. The projects. Every project that I work on, every new juggling trick, every new whatever, I do find myself in the same place. And often it's more fun to work on a new routine, to come up with a new process, to practice a new trick.
Rather than going to
Rather than putting the work in.
Yeah.
And I totally noticed this today. I'm like, one of my numbers juggling plan for the year, like numbers and with the numbers juggling league. And I'm like, and I found that list of all my records from 2003 or whatever it was, like 2003, 2004, 2005. And I'm like, I'll match all of these.
20 years later.
20 years. Can I match my personal best from 2003 to 2006 or whatever it was? Mm-hmm. When I'm 20 years older. And I'm like, yeah, I can. And you know what? Some of them I did. And
You're really done.
And it's really fun. And others I'm like, yeah, great. And I'll do this other kind of stuff. And then I'm like, yep, right. Well, I did the 9 rings again. And now I'm like, 10 rings. I've never flashed 10 rings. And suddenly now I'm like, oh, this is much more fun than trying to... Because I've done 12 balls before, and now I'm just trying to replicate something that I did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's more fun to go, I'll get 10 rings for the first time rather than 12
Repeat
balls
something.
for this... Well, again, when I did 12 balls, I was like the 4th or 5th person in the world to ever do 12 balls.
Yeah.
It was back when 12 balls was really hard.
It was meaningful.
It was meaningful. Nobody's ever thought 10 rings is that hard or has been that impressive. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, maybe it is. Either way,
I think it is.
I think it's. But at the moment, I'm having more fun because I made those ring holsters.
Right.
And suddenly it's fun to practice them. I've literally done 3 training sessions with them. The first time I did 9 rings again. For the first time since whenever it was.
Yeah.
The second time I was like, I'll try 8 rings. And I qualified 8 rings, 16 catches of 8 rings for the first time, just because I was like training that.
Yeah.
And I've just literally never tried to get more than a flash of 8 rings because you
had a different approach.
Yeah, I had a different approach. It hurts my hands a bit, when I'm doing it, but I'm just wearing my biking gloves, like my mountain biking gloves.
Yeah.
And with ring holsters, I'm like, the damage this would do, like the rubs, actually, I did have a little bit there.
I saw you. Like you do have...
But don't hurt my hands. It's easier to launch. I can get the height that I want. And on the first attempt, I did 9 rings. Easy. Next time, it took me like 5.5 minutes to get 16 catches of 8 rings for the first time ever. And now today, I'm like, 10 rings. And I'm like, 5 in one hand? Yes, I could do. 5 in the other hand? Yes, I could do. And I never actually got round to doing, like, properly working on the 10 rings. But it's one of those things I'm like, no, but my plan was to do, like, 12 balls again and to get, like, 20 catches of 10 balls.
So you're procrastinating on...
totally. It's more...
other juggling... Yeah. Harder juggling.
No, not harder, but just like new for me. It's itching the point in my brain where I'm like, I could train with this. And also with the five clubs, I'm like, to be honest, it's way more likely that I can get to 8 minutes 15 with 5 clubs than it is for me to get to 20 catches with 10 balls. Like, by far. Because that's just a concentration and fitness thing. With 5 clubs. I know that if I just keep training it, I will be able to get that because it's purely concentration and training. Yeah. 10 balls for 20 catches is so much more strength.
It's so much more precision, isn't it?
So much more precision. Yeah. And also just way more luck.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sort of like failed, pick up, fail, pick up, fail, pick up, fail, pick up. Whereas, like, I can add 30 seconds to a 5-club routine, 5-club thing, and I'm only doing it once per practice session.
Yes.
And so that's just... That. So this is the thing, like... I do intend to break these or get these records, but at any one point, it has to feel new and interesting to me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like at the beginning of the year, trying 12 balls again felt good, but now it doesn't because the juggling balls that I'm using are so old that the millet in it, the seeds in it, is just crumbling and they've got holes in them.
Yep.
So all I'm doing is throwing balls up and just having bits of millet, like millet dust, raining down into my eyes.
That's not pleasant.
No, it isn't. So I need to make myself some new juggling balls to feel good.
That stands in front of actually progressing in that matter.
Yes. So here's the thing. It works with things that I'm working on, like new tricks.
Yeah.
It works with juggling routines and things.
Yeah.
But with this, like with the 12 balls, like I wanted to get a 12-ball flash. I've got 11 out of 12 catches this year, like 9 times.
Yeah, it was...
nothing I can
frustrating to watch you.
What, with the 12 balls?
Yeah. How close you got? multiple times.
Well, that was. I think you mostly watched with the 11 balls. You haven't really seen me train at 12 balls.
Maybe it was the 11 balls that you always ended up 10.
So no, I'm getting mixed up. I got 10 out of 11 like 9 times, and I've got 11 out of 12 balls like 6 times or 5 times or something like that. So my point being that it's not fun for me to work on 12 balls because I know there's nothing really I can do to get better. Like the only next thing to do is to just keep doing it until I randomly not drop that one time instead of dropping that ball number 7 and catching the rest.
Yeah.
Catching 11, but dropping number 7. I just catch number 7 and catch the rest. And it doesn't feel like I'm like getting better at it in the same way that I can literally make a graph to show my progress with 5 club endurance going up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So where am I with 12 balls? Am I with 12 balls at the 75% mark and I just need to push through?
Yeah.
Or am I at 10% and I've just got to try it? Do I have to put in 9 or 10 times as much work as I've already done to be able to get it?
Or just longer, longer.
Yeah, but again, how I with the club juggling, I know that if I do an extra minute per month, I will be able to break the record by the 20th anniversary of me setting my 8 minutes 15 second record.
Right, yes.
Because I'm at 3.5 minutes now, and I'm at the end of March, at the end of April, 4 minutes, at the end of May. Like, you can just count it up, and I can see a graph going up.
Yeah.
But with 12 balls, as soon as I do it for the first time, I'm done. That's it. I'm literally never trying it again.
Did you think that after doing it the first time?
No, because I didn't have it on video. And now I want it on video, if you know what I mean. If I have a video evidence of it.
All right, there's the incentive.
There's the incentive. A lot of these records I don't have video of. Like I got 10 balls. I got 18 catches of 10 balls.
Yeah.
Which is 2 away from a qualifying, but kind of at the time was 6 catches away from the world record of 10 balls at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't get it on video. Same with 12 balls. Didn't get it on video. Like a lot of
these were the times.
These are the times. I mean, I had a video camera, but it was just a pain to set up. You put the tape in it, run the battery and stuff, and you're just like, oh, I did 12 balls. Well, next time I'll set a camera up and do it. And of course, there hasn't been a next time
until now.
So yeah, what am I trying to say? Yeah, so the visible progress, like with a novel, it's a known thing. You finish the novel. This is what I was saying just on the couch before. You write the right number of words, you get it all edited, you send it off to the editor or the publicist. There's a known process to finish that.
Yeah.
Same with writing an album. You write all the songs, you get them recorded, then you're ready to go on tour or whatever.
Right.
And the same with a juggling act for me, or a juggling routine, is that there's this, like, it's a bounded thing. Like, once I get it to the point that I can run through the act 10 times in a row and only have 3 drops in 10 runs of the routine, 10 times running through the routine 10 times.
That's what you're aiming for.
That's the kind of ballpark figure. Once it's there, I know I can do it on stage. I mean, I'll have tried it on stage in various audiences, and if it's working, I'll put that effort into it. Yeah. Which is kind of where I'm at now with the magnet machine thing.
Yeah. You've done it in front of different audiences.
Did it in front of and the last time I performed it, I had like one mistake at no, it wasn't even my fault. The music started playing in the wrong time, so I had to kind of like run forward or something. But I can get through that first section with no mistakes or no drops, and then the second section like with one mistake or whatever is what I did when I did it at Turbofest. So again, there's this known thing where I need to get to, and I can plot on the graph. Like at the start, I was doing 5 drops every time I ran through the routine, and then you get to 1 drop every time you run through the routine, then 0, but then you're like, how many times can you go in a row without dropping? So there's this kind of graphing thing where you know how close you are to the end, or how long, and it feels like that's where I am now. This is kind of how I have to explain to myself that there's no despair. Like I shouldn't despair that I'm never going to get the routine or I'm never going to get the trick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's always a forward momentum.
There's a forward momentum, and there's a trackable forward momentum. Yeah. And even if it stalls out it a bit, I'm like, okay, I'm stalled a bit here, but once it clicks, it's going to go next one. But with the 12 balls, I don't have that. There is no forward momentum for it.
Yes.
Because I'm at 11 catches. Not 11 catches. I can catch 11 out of the 12 balls that I throw.
Yeah. Now, hear me out.
What's that?
We just on the couch, and you also said that the balls you're currently using are literally losing millet onto your face. So now that might be also a deal breaker here. Like that might be one of the things that stands in the way of you actually enjoying it. You know, like get yourself some nice balls that you enjoy actually juggling.
Yeah, but is that then procrastinating along the way?
You will never
Maybe.
know.
Yeah, never know.
If you don't try that.
Yeah, true.
You know, and so,
Do I just do... Thing is, there's nothing to graph with 12 balls, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's either there or it's not. And that's why I kind of don't enjoy the binary nature of that.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I get it, it's done.
Yeah.
So that's kind of on-off kind of thing.
Yes,
and also, there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing to improve. And as soon as I've done it, it's over. So... It feels like
nothing to gain.
Yeah, there's nothing to gain, but
video footage of something you've done already in the past.
Yes, that's the thing. And then I'm like, but I just got 16 catches of 8 rings for the first time, and it only took 5 minutes. That's like way more sad. I feel like a much better juggler when I achieve something within 5 minutes of attempting it for the first time. It turns out I'm just good enough at ring juggling that I can just do something that I've never tried before. You know, and that's always the thing when you're talking about jugglers. Like, oh yeah, well, of course, Anthony Gatto could have done that if he tried. It's like, yeah, but you've got to want to try. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's that motivation to actually do something.
Yeah.
And then I get distracted by, but over here I'm doing a thing. Anyway, so, yes. So what I want to do now, this is what I wanted the podcast to be about.
Yes, and now we're actually getting there.
No. Everything we said so far, I think is an interesting thing. Like this is not what we talked. I mean, we also talked about some of that on the couch, but again, what we're doing now is like setting up. Like this was what I wanted to talk to you about on the couch, and I said, let's save it for the podcast.
Yes, you actually left the conversation because you had a thought in your head,
and I think I want to go over this now. Everything that I've said so far is about it's more fun to start a project.
Yep.
It's the starting of a project is more fun than the 75% slogging through it.
Of course.
And also ending a project is fun.
Yes.
Starting a project is fun. But there's this like 45% to 85% of the way through, or 45% to 90% of the way through, which feels like a slog, which is, if you push through it, all of that is massive benefit because you've invested the time, you've invested the effort, you've invested the money, you've invested all this kind of stuff. This is what I was talking to you about before about this. We did a podcast about long-term projects and I was saying 18 months. If something is going to take more than 18 months, you're going to spend too long in the slog. But if it's going to take less than 18 months, you're going to be...
You get the enjoyable bits.
Yeah.
Like relatively speaking.
Yeah, relatively, you get the enjoyable bits, but if it's too easy and it's not long term enough, it feels like it wasn't a big enough project. After a month, I was finished, and then I had to find something else to do.
Yeah.
So keeping in mind what we're talking about long term projects, and keeping in mind what I talked about now of where the interesting part is in this.
Yes.
We're just saying about how much gear I have to take with me.
Yes.
And that's what I brought out here.
It's literally here standing right next to us.
Okay.
Because you went juggling today and you took all your performing stuff to run through your routine.
Yeah, because I've got a gig next week.
So you left in the morning and said, oh, don't come and say goodbye to me yet. I have to go to the car at least 2 times or something.
2 or 3 times to get everything in the car.
And that's kind of a good description of what's going on.
This is 2 shows. Now, we've done a podcast about 2 big juggling shows.
Yep.
And I think we've also done about having too much juggling equipment.
Yep.
But the way that I want to approach this conversation is, put it this way, I'm very happy with my show at the moment.
Yeah.
No, actually, let me rephrase that. I'm very happy with my 2 shows at the moment.
Yeah,
my
I've seen
first
them
show, I've gone through a long process of getting that show really good.
Yes.
And to break it down, Diablo, 3 balls and video, 5 balls comedy piece with an audience volunteer, ring juggling routine, 7 ring finale for that, and then knife juggling finale with 3 knives, 4 knives, and 5 knives.
Yeah.
And it tells a really great story. So not going to change anything about that. Everything's set in there. It's a good story. It goes really well, gets a good response from the audience.
Yes.
And I'm very happy with it.
Yes.
Except for one thing, which I'm going to come back to in a bit.
Okay.
Next up is my second show, and I realize after today, I've got a lot of shit in my second show.
Yeah.
And as I'm developing this Anthony Gatto routine, this Anthony Gatto trick with the balance, there's getting more and more stuff.
Yeah.
This comes from a project that I did last year that I performed for the first time, which was called the 4 Finales.
Yes.
Or the Big 4. The version, there's like the two different vibes of this. The 4 Finales was I had this idea of doing not full juggling routines, but just doing 4 finale tricks in a row.
Yeah.
And the idea being it would be a 7 rings on a roller bowler, like Alexander Kiss kind of style, Russian style trick kind of thing.
Okay.
Or it would have been maybe 6 rings with a balance on a roller bowl or whatever.
Okay.
That was one of the ideas. 5 club back crosses, which is a great finale.
That's Sergei Ignatov kind of.
Yeah, or like like everybody at the end of the 5 club routine does some 5 club back crosses or something like that. But it's another big trick again. There was my own 3 rings in one hand, 3 clubs in the other hand, like a 3+3 kind of thing, and then the Brun finish. And then I was like, okay, well, actually, the way I need to get into this is like different nationalities. So there's the Italian style of juggling, like the Brun finish. There's the Russian style of juggling, where it's I'd perform to like circus music or something. Then the kind of like American style or circus style, like WJF kind of like back crosses, like something technical. And then like the mixed prop kind of style. I'm like, well, that's a very Stockholm, Sweden kind of thing where it's about the props and the different natures of them. And, I might as well be like,
props juggle you.
Yeah. Well, it's the. Don't want to get into that. My point being that it's sort of like, this is it was my own trick, but it could be in the style of Wes Peden or Tony Pezzo or anyone who's graduated from Doch could perform this. On stage.
Yeah.
And when I showed people these tricks and said name the nationality, people would get like knowledgeable jugglers would get like 3 out of 4 of them straight away, and they'd be really there. So I'm saying that, but then I was like, actually, I can actually do the 4 finales, like, so I can still do the back crosses and still do the Brun finish. But if I just do cigar boxes, I can do Kramer, and if I do this, Gatto thing, and I was like, that's the key to it. And suddenly I could tie it back to my life. It was about storytelling. It was about my journey and all that kind of stuff. And I was really excited to perform it last year at the British Juggling Convention.
Yeah.
It was like the core. It was like the 3. There was like 3 cores of that show, like 3 main chapters of that show, and that was one of them. Really good. I started performing it on cruise ships.
Put a lot of time in it.
Got a good response, but it does mean that something that I designed to perform for the first time at the British Juggling Convention. I actually got a last minute gig before that, and I flew off to Vietnam or wherever it was to Thailand, and I did it before then. I was like, oh great, I can test out some material. Normally it would always be the other way around. I'd test out material I'm going to do in my cruise ship show at a juggling convention first, but in this case I didn't. I did the storytelling part of the 4 finales. It was a fun way of doing it. But what that means is that I've kind of fallen into having a segment in my show, in my second show on a cruise ship, which is, I really think it's very good. I think it's a really good storytelling. I can make people almost tear up in the audience by the storytelling and how much these tricks mean to me. It's really, really great. But sometimes I take all this stuff onto a cruise ship and I don't even do my second show. They only want one show. I do my show and I'm like, I've got all this stuff with me. And I didn't even use it.
I remember when we were at the Christmas and New Year's cruise. You had to do one more at the beginning of it.
I did one show on the first day of the cruise,
and then nothing. And you were a bit like. Wait a second.
I want to do my second show.
They're not letting me do and then you only had a matinee show with only one show.
With one show for the second show in the afternoon.
And you were like, you were so cute about it in the way of like, but I'm now feeling like disrespected. They don't want me to show everything.
Yeah, it was Christmas. It was New Year's.
It was great.
So anyway, the last time I performed this was in New Year's Eve or something. But it's still really good. I do the Brun finish, the Brun finale. I do 5 club back crosses. I do the cigar boxes, and I do the Gatto trick. And I just ran through them today. First time, each time, great. Like
Yeah.
it's solid, it's good. Like I say, the storytelling is good. It works really fine. But what's happened is I've kind of fallen ass backwards into a segment of my show, which just takes up a huge amount of space
Yeah.
and a huge amount of stuff.
Yes.
All right, let's break it down. I'm going to go away from the microphone for a second, and I'm just going to show what's in this case here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
going to show the stuff in my first show. So
Right.
you talk through it a bit.
Okay,
as well.
so-
my first show.
The first show is 2 Diabolos.
Yeah. And this
And-
is here.
And the 2 Diabolo handle sticks.
Hand sticks.
This
is
5 stage balls.
5 big stage balls and a net.
5 big stage balls and a net.
Yes. Next up is
3 bean bags.
yes, the 3 big. I'm looking for them. I'm looking for them. Can't find
They're
them.
probably in a little grey bag.
3 small bean bags. 7 rings,
7 rings.
which I think is that many rings.
Yeah.
That many rings. And then the knives at the end here.
And then how many knives? 5 knives?
knives.
5 knives.
Okay,
So that's a small pile of things,
Look.
I would say.
look at that.
You could fit that in a normal luggage, in a
Look,
suitcase.
if I wanted to, I could put that in a carry-on suitcase. Of course I can't
Absolutely.
because there's knives.
Yeah, but like, I mean, but you could put that. You just travel with a normal luggage, not
Yeah.
with an extra built wooden box.
I could if I was only doing one show, I could do a single, 45, 50-minute show from that.
Yeah, it's not a lot of things.
But my show developed around having a finale, which wasn't 5 knife juggling, so it's just like 5 knives.
Yeah.
It was 3 knives on a roller bowler. So now look at this case.
Yeah.
The case that I have is designed, I built it myself, because of course I did.
After years and years of
like-
using old aluminium.
It wasn't years and years. I've actually used this.
Felt like that.
I've used this now for a lot longer than. But because it was just part of a street show and then a theatre show and then it was like the end of the art of juggling act and things
Yeah.
that we did. So I'm very happy with the case.
Yes.
If the main purpose of this case was to hold all the gear and do 5 knives on a roller bowler,
Yeah.
this case would be perfect. If it didn't need to be that strong, I wouldn't have to have a padded case to put my case in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it would just be fine. It would be good enough. And I see
all
these.
has consequences.
Yeah. Like I see these other cruise ship jugglers, and they have a case which doesn't look as good as mine because it looks like a Pelican case or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can get away with it. Sort of it's like a travel. It looks more like you're out on the road, you're doing your show,
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that if I didn't have to ever think about doing my second show again, I wouldn't need this case. I could make
Yes.
a much smaller case,
Yes.
and I'd probably make a case still with legs or something like this, which
Yeah.
because I like the look of it.
it
But I'd
looks
get
really
longer
good.
legs and a much smaller case, and because I wouldn't need to put as much stuff in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
could, if I was just doing one show, I could make this case way shallower, not as deep. If you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Of course.
it would look, but I would need it to be this size because I've always wanted to put a set of 5 clubs in there, or back in the day, 7 clubs. You know,
Yeah.
from doing this kind of stuff.
And you would want to literally go on top of it.
Yeah,
So it has.
yeah. So what I'm saying is that if I only had to think about one show, that's it. So why don't I?
Okay, let's put this aside.
What?
You have your first show sorted.
Yeah.
It's in a little pile down there.
Yeah.
Now, how did we come to all the other stuff that's still around the case? Or just
Yeah.
for the second show that might or might not
Sometimes I don't
actually be
even do, yeah.
performed. So how did it end up with all this stuff?
Well, here's the thing. My second show was based around questions that people would ask. So the
Yeah.
idea being what people would say, what's the most unusual thing you can juggle? Or they would say, hey, you're a juggler. Can you juggle this tray? Can you juggle
Yeah.
this knife? Can you juggle
Yeah.
this pen?
Yeah.
So it was all random stuff around the ship that I could then perform with.
Yeah, I literally seen you in one of the shows where you then had a broom from
Yeah, well, I just
behind the
find
stage.
stuff, and I'm like, balance this on my nose and lay
I
down
really
and stand
like
up
that.
again.
Also, that means you don't have to actually then carry
Yeah.
it around. You can just find it
Yeah.
on the ship.
And it builds up to the ping pong juggling routine.
Yes.
But here's the thing. Okay, so let's get that out.
Right, second show material.
Tennis ball in a can.
So that's one can with 3 tennis balls in it.
I really like this as the start of my second show.
Yeah, it's very compact and small.
Ping pong balls.
A bunch of them.
Yeah, I need like 8 for the 2 show. If I'm doing my second show twice,
Yeah.
because I knock them, at the end of them, I pretend that I'm going to do 4 ping pong balls, and then I knock them out into the audience and don't do it. It's
Yeah.
like it's the one kind of like gotcha moment, but it's
Yes.
funny, and I don't always get the ping pong balls back, and they also get scuffed up a bit. So I actually need some new ping pong balls because
Yeah.
they don't look very good
And
after
a
a while.
new ping pong bat anyway.
Don't need to talk about that. So those are the 2
Anyway,
things. So ping
That's
pong.
also pretty small, pretty compact.
small. Pretty small.
Yeah. So that's 2 things for the second show done.
Yeah. Next up, a set of 5 clubs.
5 clubs. Normal juggler equipment.
A normal juggling equipment.
Carry
set of
around 5 clubs.
Okay, so
normal.
5 clubs. But this is suddenly my second show is getting quite bulky.
It gets bigger.
Gets bulky.
Yeah. But it's not bigger than bulk-wise, it's a bit bigger than the 5 knives, but
much bigger.
length-wise.
Yeah, lengthwise and stuff like that. So
It fits.
so far, we're still at the point where everything can fit in the case.
Yeah.
Now we get to the 4 finales section.
Yes. And here now we come to
Here it comes to
a
the
point
thing.
that I might want to make.
Yeah.
So, what do we start with?
Inflatable ball that I spin on my finger.
Yes.
2 large rings.
2 bigger rings than
much bigger
the
rings
other rings that you
whirl
carry
around my arm.
2
when
of
I'm-
them.
2 of them.
Just for that
Just for one
particular
trick.
reason.
Yeah. I did this. So from these next few things, each trick that I'm doing lasts around about 15 seconds at the most.
Yes.
Maybe 20 seconds to
Yes.
build up and to take down some of these tricks.
Yeah.
A bit longer because I'm like building up to the music.
there's a
and
bit of
course there's-
storytelling and stuff.
Well, the storytelling is like where the time is spent, to
Yeah.
introduce them. But the point is I'm just doing the finale trick. So
Yeah.
again, it's like building up to a finale, doing it, and then building up to the next finale.
Okay, so we have one spinning ball, 2 large rings.
3 rings.
3 rings of the pile that you already have taken from
already
the
have them,
first
but
show.
because I do another set, I actually need 8 rings for this section. So I need 7 rings in my first show, and I need 8 rings for the 4 finales because I use 5 rings with the Gatto trick and 3 rings with the Francis Brunn trick.
And you can't use the other. They are not
It's
interchangeable.
kind of annoying to like have them set up and then switch between them. It's much
Okay.
better that I can put my hand out,
Right.
grab all the rings for the first,
Of course.
for the first one,
Yeah.
and then later on put my hand out and grab all of the rings for the second one.
So you need to take extra rings.
I need to take 1 extra ring.
Okay.
So let's put 1 more ring there.
Okay, that's okay. 1 ring.
Mouth pedestal, head pedestal.
Yeah.
These are kept on breaking, so I remade them out of aluminium, and now they're super solid, but quite heavy, unfortunately.
Yeah. And the mouse stick still is
Still needs fixing.
sometimes.
So yes,
Yeah.
either way.
High maintenance. Okay, let's just say more high maintenance objects.
2 mini basketballs.
Which you deflate?
Yes, I deflate these. Yeah, like
Okay,
the
so-
spinning ball and that's all deflated.
So that's the 2 mini basketballs, and also you need to carry around a pump.
Yes, and I need to carry around a pump. Let me get that. I thought it was in
the
here.
pump is somewhere.
It's somewhere.
Maybe it fell out.
No, it's in here. I found it. Oh yeah. Also, on the back of the case, I have a bag which I dump stuff in when I'm not using it in the show anymore.
Yes, which is also handy.
It is very handy. That's definitely going to stay in the first show as well. Oh, also, I just realised what's rattling around in here are these hooks that I put on the side of the case because now my second show, there's so much stuff in my second show that I don't have space in my case for everything
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
So I need to hang the rings that I'm using
Yeah.
in the Brunn finish and the Gatto finale.
Yeah.
I need to hang them on these hooks, which are like hooked
Yeah,
onto the side
separate
of
them
the
out
case. Oh, I
outside
just
of the
knocked my mic
case.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
another thing there.
All right.
There's actually
Hooks.
more hooks.
So
Next
more
up,
weight.
5 club back crosses already there.
Oh,
After that, cigar boxes.
3,
3 cigar boxes.
which you never juggle.
I never practice with these. I never do anything. I got good enough at the 3
You
cigar
just
boxes.
carry them around for the 4-minute
They
act.
are gimmicked ones as well. So if I don't get it on the first attempt, there is a magnet version that I can flip them around and do that. Hey, I don't do that all the time though. Like if I mess
What?
up the first time, there is a way to make it easier with magnets in the cigar
Okay.
boxes. I would love to do a full routine with magnets and like cigar boxes with magnets, but that would definitely be for something for just jugglers, because it's too kind of difficult to already explain what cigar boxes are to a non-juggling audience.
Yes.
And then be like, and haha, these ones got magnets.
Would be funny then to combine it with a magnet machine, and then you stick the cigar boxes up the magnet machine. Oh, what was falling down there, by the way, was is something that also still needs to come up.
Yeah. I mean, we're only halfway through the equipment of the second show. It is the second show.
The second show pile is growing.
Yeah. Next up, the gato trick. So,
okay, now you have a bag.
I have a bag with a hamster ball in it. Thankfully, the hamster ball, you can open it up and store stuff inside the hamster ball.
That's very good. Otherwise, it would be a huge volume out of just air.
Yeah, the hamster ball also has a stand, which I use for when I'm training, because I realized when I was damaging it, because a hamster ball is not designed to be juggled and dropped around.
It breaks a lot.
It does break a lot. Yeah. So I have a stand to put it on, because I realized most of the times when I was dropping it was when I was trying to like reset with the rings and do all that
balance
kind of stuff.
A round thing on a flat floor.
An extra ring, the big chunky ring.
Oh yeah.
Is this extra big chunky ring.
Yes.
That I catch on top of the hamster ball at the end. And the balance pole that I have over there.
Yeah.
And an Allen key to take apart the balance pole.
Yeah.
And put it together.
Yeah.
Finally, in the second show, we have a play juggling roller bowler tube.
Yeah.
A massive bit of plywood, which is strong enough for me to stand on.
Huge.
And the juggling case for me to stand on.
Yes.
Which means by weight and by volume, my second show...
Which you sometimes do.
Which sometimes I don't do, let me put it that way. So I take all this stuff with me to every gig.
Yeah.
And my second show is by volume and weight 4 times as much equipment as my first show.
Yeah.
I forgot to show one more thing.
Okay, what is that? Oh, yeah.
In my first show, I take a hat with me. It's back in the day when I was doing the art of juggling. The hat was like one of the main features of the show.
Yes, it's a top hat.
Where Paula and I would like throw this top hat and like share it and get between us. And then it became like part of my costume as a solo performer, because I kind of defaulted to the same thing. Like I wanted something super formal for me as a juggler, and then Paula was wearing her like artist outfit, her dungarees or whatever.
Yeah.
So it was about the contrast between the two of us.
Yeah.
So I kept that kind of formal stuff and the top hat.
You're using this top hat exactly how many times in the show?
I use it for one Diablo trick to take off my head to show like that I don't have anything in my other hand, and then I'm whipping a string around for my neck in my first show. This is the thing that really needs to leave my show.
Okay.
But honestly, like I'm carrying around this hat for one trick in my show.
Yeah.
One trick in my show.
Good realization here.
No, I realized this when I came back after COVID, and I was like, and I kind of rediscovered my show after not performing it for 2 years.
Yeah,
and I realized,
but it's still there, and now COVID has been like...
Yeah.
This break has been...
I was like, my whole Diablo routine is much easier for me to do, like the double pirouettes and stuff that I'm doing. It's much easier to do that if I'm not having to worry about a top hat on the top of my head. So I just started performing my Diablo routine without the top hat on, which means that I would gesture with it. You know, when I do like the one-handed Diablo bit.
Yes.
And I could take my hat off and like gesture to the audience and stuff.
And
now I just don't do that. I just wave at the audience, just as good. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
And then I pick this hat up, do one trick with it, like the Diablo finale trick, and then just put it on the table, and it just sits on the table for the time. And I'm carrying on this and it's a clap hat, an opera hat, a springy out hat.
Yeah.
And it has to. And it doesn't even look good anymore because it's all creased and stuff.
Yeah, you don't see that from when you sit in the audience.
But I'm saying like it has to go in a hat box. So I'm carrying around a hat box for a collapsed hat.
Yeah.
Which I use for 20 seconds in my first show. So that's the thing that I really need to get out of my show.
Okay.
And I could just replace it with like a baseball cap or something like that if I found another hat to use, one which wasn't quite as valuable and took up so much space. Okay.
You could always go to the shop of the ship and ask, "Hey, can I have
can I have a cap?
A cap.
I need that would probably be better for me. Actually, it would get a better reaction if every cruise line I just have one cap from each cruise line, or one cap from a destination that I've been to on the cruise already. I could probably just get away with that.
Yeah. Tie it back.
Maybe that's what I should do. Is like not like these hats are $250 each.
Yeah, I know.
And so if I'm like, I need a new hat, like, why don't I just get whatever tourist hat in the last destination?
And make it so that the people can actually connect to it in a way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
do you want to make a list out of these things?
Oh no, I have a list. I have a packing list, so don't worry about it.
I know you have but I'm saying like, okay, what to look at and maybe find a replacement or take out the show.
Okay, I wanted to go through all of that.
Yeah.
Maybe I went into a bit too much detail about this, but I just wanted to kind of show that my second show at the moment, by weight and by volume and by complexity, is like 4 to 5 times as much as my first show.
Yes.
But here's the thing. It feels like it was worth it to do all of that because it was new, if you know what I mean. I'm at that new stage.
I totally understand. Now, here I have a theory about how we ended up there.
Yeah.
So the way it works was this. You had a first show. The first show was strong. It was good, and I said earlier it was round, like there's a it is like a good story and stuff. Then the second show, which you don't always do, you regularly do it, became more of like a practice ground for new things.
Yeah.
So you had a certain set structure, like the tennis ball and can and the table tennis bat, and then at the end the roller bowler. So that was kind of like the 20%.
100% right.
And the bit in the middle fluctuated depending on what you were working on.
Totally true.
Yeah.
Totally true. Actually, I was chatting with John Udry about it. And I was like, my first show...
His name is Udry.
Oh, yeah, sorry, John Udry.
Yes.
And we were chatting about this, and he's always putting new stuff in his show. And I'm like, oh, I do that in my second show. And I literally said, like, my first show hasn't changed in 15 years.
Yeah.
Or the structure had literally since the second cruise ship contract I went on, the structure of Diablo, 3 balls, 5 balls, some big routine, and then finish off with knife juggling has been like pretty much the same since 1997.
Yeah, it works.
Not 97, 2007. Let me say, sorry, not 97. That's way too early. Since 2007.
Yeah.
But my second show has been changing all the time.
Yes.
It is like the playground for new stuff. But here's the thing. And this is what I want to say about like when I'm talking about this sort of like being 75% of the way in. At the moment, my second show, I'm at that 75% to 85% of the way of it being set and settled.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, what about my Zanzibar thing where I play the piano and sing a song? That's really fun. And you know how much stuff I have to take with me?
Nothing.
A USB thumb drive with a video on it.
Which you carry anyway.
And then, which I carry anyway. And then I say, can you set up a keyboard on stage for me to play? Yeah. But here's the thing. That was really good when I was regularly singing at comedy shows in Berlin.
Yeah.
And then I did like the lockdown time, didn't do anything like that. And I'm like, I just don't sing anymore. You know what I mean? I'm just not doing that. I don't play the piano and write music and sing anymore.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like a it's not that I don't enjoy it. It's just that there's a different vibe to my show now. And also that gets in the way of the actual juggling want to do. So I could totally tighten up my show. Like I could very easily tighten up my show by removing like the cigar boxes and other stuff which takes too much gear to take with me, and just do Zanzibar. But sometimes they can't set up a keyboard on stage.
I didn't even think about putting the song back in.
Yeah,
I was wanting to talk about how I see it from the outside, how you got to all of these individual routines. I think the first thing that you've put it into the second show was the beat train routine.
The club juggling routine.
The club juggling routine, because also previously you had a bounce juggling routine that you would also sometimes perform in that spot.
That would be the way that I would open my show.
Yeah.
With the bounce routine. Yeah. With the 3 balls.
So that's not there anymore.
Well, no, I didn't it was good, and I thought it was a fun routine. I enjoy performing it, but it meant that when I got to the tennis balls in the can, it's sort of like, well, we've already seen ball juggling here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like there's
variety of props.
The function of both of the routines was the same function.
Yes.
Like neither of them added. This is what I was talking to Stanislav today about. Like it's difficult for me to there needs to be a reason for me to do something in my show, which is beyond here's something I can do.
Yeah.
Like it would be so easy if I could just be like, here's something I can do, and here's something else I can do, and here's something else I can do.
Yeah.
And it would be so much easier to put together a juggling show like that. But I actually care about the theatricality of it
and the storytelling,
the storytelling of it.
Yeah.
And
I totally understand.
It's tricky.
So, however, then after that, like that came into your second show,
right?
You started working on the Brun finish, on the Brun finale.
Yeah.
That was the first of the, now suddenly we have much more props that you carry around because you were working on it and you had fun with it, and it had you were aiming to get the trick, and then you had the trick, and then you wanted to perform it.
Yeah.
So that came in then, and then you worked on the 4 finales where how it happened.
Yeah.
The Brun finale was one of them.
Yeah.
So then the other 3 finales came to appear in the show because it fit thematically, and so what I'm trying to say here is that your second show became, like the middle of the second show became a playground, like a sandbox for you
and that's
to
what I'm
work
saying.
on
the
things.
Start of the start of the new project.
And what your job now would be to figure out, is that all actually necessary and meaningful and worth all the big hassle and the big, like, literally.
But here's the thing:
huge
what
pile.
am I losing by always having to take 2 big suitcases with me? Whereas I used to get away with just taking my juggling case and a backpack. You know what I mean? Like, do I care about this second show with the 4 finales enough to always have to take a second suitcase with me?
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of what the question is here.
Yeah.
And if I don't do the 4 finales, let's say I get rid of 3 of them.
Yeah.
Or let's say instead of doing 4 finales, I just do the Gatto finish.
Yeah.
But am I just deciding on that one? Is it actually the best trick, or am I just deciding to do that because it's the new thing that I'm working on?
Right.
Or is it the best bit?
Yeah.
I think it's the best bit. But also it's the bit that I'm working on now. You know what I mean?
And this is the point where you need to go to the outside person.
Yeah.
And ask what.
So this is what we're getting to on the couch.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about.
What do I do in my second show? So I've got, like looking down at this gear now.
Yeah.
I'm happy to take the hamster ball with me because I think the effect is so good.
Yeah.
And I'm still working on it and enjoying it.
Yeah.
I also really enjoy the cigar boxes. I think it's a break from it's like something completely different from everything else I've done so far.
Okay, is it different for you, or is it different for the show and for the audience?
It's different for the show and the audience in that case.
Because
like
it's another sort of prop.
Yeah, it's a different prop. Everything that I've done up until this point is variations on... It's like Diablo, then throwing and catching, throwing and catching, throwing and catching, throwing and catching. And cigar boxes is a little bit of just the same kind of throwing and catching.
I understand, but hear me out here now.
Yeah.
Could you achieve the same kind of diverse, like, oh, it's a new prop and something else, if you would literally go around the ship and find things that are similar to cigar boxes and juggle those,
like toilet rolls,
for example?
Yeah, but then then I can't literally put a slide up. I can't then put the 4, the big 4 jugglers. I literally show a picture of them doing. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The only reason I do cigar boxes is because I'm doing the 4 finales of the 4 greatest jugglers of the 20th century, or the 4 greatest jugglers who were around when I started juggling.
I understand, but if you want to actually, like, this only works if you do all 4 of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So, if you start wanting to think about to reduce anything, then you need to. Well,
let's make a decision here. Let's make a decision.
Okay.
For this gig that I'm doing next week, I've got a week to think about this and decide how much of this stuff I'm taking with me.
Yes.
I think I could not take the cigar boxes.
Okay.
And I could not take the Brun finish stuff.
Just by leaving...
Let me finish.
Okay.
And I will do Zanzibar again, which means actually practicing the song and singing it, like practicing the piano part, and just hope that I can get that we can get that set up on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not a problem. I can do that. I've done the Zanzibar. I did it for 10 years in my second show. Like, it's good. It's strong.
Okay.
It's a fun break, and I like having a multimedia part of my second show.
Yeah.
At the moment, the multimedia part is look at these pictures of other jugglers. It's not really the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But having a piano set or a keyboard set up on stage that I can perform with and sing to, I think that's good. So my second show could be this. Start over the tennis balls in the can, ping pong juggling, club juggling.
Yes.
Then Zanzibar.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm not sure the order exactly, but I could do Zanzibar, which is enough time. Build up the gatto trick and say the single hardest trick that I can do. Finish with the clubs on the knives on the roller bowler.
Yeah.
And that, how much would that reduce me down? I'm just gonna have a quick look here.
So 3 cigar boxes.
Yeah. So it would be
2 big rings.
Yeah, it would be this amount of stuff here. That, and the hooks here. I wouldn't need these hooks. Yeah, and I'll get rid of this hat as well.
Okay. No hat box.
So, looking at this now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I wouldn't need that ring. Yeah. So, looking at it now, just by taking that out, we still have the roller bowler and the knives, which is quite big.
Of course.
But now look at this. Oh, and the post over there.
The pole that you can take apart.
The pole that I can post over there. And here's the other thing that I was thinking of. Last year, I worked on this. I worked on to perform my numbers, count up the numbers thing, where I pick up one ball. I throw 9 balls on the thing.
Yeah.
And I go.
Didn't you also perform that in the BJC show?
Yeah, it was
right?
part of the BJC show.
Yeah.
It wasn't part of the 4 finales.
No.
But that's another fun thing that I could throw in there. In my first show, I talk about numbers juggling, and I do 7. I get up to 7 rings in my first show.
Yeah.
And people say, "Well, how many can you juggle?" And I say, "Well, let's count it off, if you know what I mean." And I can build up, and it can be a fun moment in that show.
And how much space and how big is a pile of 9 little balls?
Do I have them here? Oh, I can't see.
I don't know. It's not that big. It's certainly not as big as the pile that's now here that you just took out of all the stuff with the.
I can't find
3 cigar boxes. It will be here somewhere.
I can't find the little bag of numbers juggling stuff.
It's probably a black bag.
Yeah, it is. It's a bag.
So it's difficult to find.
It's in that pile of stuff.
But it's a little bag.
It's a small. Yeah, it's a small bag.
Literally could fit
and
into the hamster ball.
If I make a new set of balls,
it
means that I can. They will look good on stage, because I couldn't do that with the current balls that I have, because they just look like small potatoes or whatever. These little brown things. Yeah. So I definitely
really
need
not
to.
Flattering.
I definitely need to make some like bright coloured, nice looking balls.
Yeah.
White
and while
or
doing
red or
that, you can then also extend that a bit and just get a few more of those. And then you
make 12 so I can get the
12 little balls.
So here's the thing. Here's the question then.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 1 week.
Yeah.
Literally until I'm leaving next Friday, I think, isn't it? I've got 1 week. Do I, in this week, first show is set. Do I just work on this second show and, again, go to Catacomb and whatever, and just run through it a few times, my second show, to make sure, and not just do the juggling, but kind of work out what the new story is, and just do it, if you know what I mean, and take out the brun finish, it means that actually now in the 5 club routine, I can put the club back crosses back in. Yeah. Because I took the back crosses out of my beat train routine. Yeah. Because
you separated them out.
I separated them out and was doing them in the Sergei Ignatov bit. Yeah. So maybe I should just do this. I should, for this one gig where I might not even do my second show, I should just get back into, because all I need to do is practice the Zanzibar song again and just get more comfortable playing and singing it and playing it again. I think it's a really strong, fun part of my show.
I always love it, and people always love it too.
Yeah. I can follow that with some numbers juggling, and then the hardest trick that I can do, and finish off with the knife juggling on the roller bowler. Yeah. I think that's could be it. But am I just like? Yeah, I think this is it. I think this is probably what I should do, is because I kind of fell ass backwards into having too many props in my second show, and I can't fit it used to be that I could fit all of my 2 shows into one case.
Yeah.
and I'm not sure I'll be able to do this because this hamster ball is really big. But if I if I don't travel with my hat, this hat in a box, and I just use a cap from either the cruise line or one of the ports that we've just been to, and I think I can get away. I think that would be a fun thing to get away with.
Absolutely.
And then and what else?
And if you don't find a hat that you can, you have a cap literally with a club on. You have
I have a juggling
cap.
Yeah.
That you can always take and use for in case, you know.
And if I feel like that, I mean, I will take my hat with me this time, I think. But in the future, like because if I don't find a cap that I'm happy with, that makes sense in the show.
Okay.
I can just use my normal hat. But yes, I think this could solve something. But again, am I just doing this because now I want to do something new in my show? Am I like, oh, I can do the 9 balls in my show? Like, where am I now in this process? Am I deciding that my second show has been 85% for a long time, and I need to get it to 100%, and it's a finished show?
Yes.
Or am I returning back to that first 15% where things are new and interesting to me again?
No.
What's going on? Which one's going on here?
I think it's the second version because
that I'm going back to the first. That I'm going back to the start.
You're polishing it up because what you've done, you've taken an empty bowl and filled it up with everything that you wanted to fill it up with.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like overflowing.
Right.
And it wasn't cohesive in any way. So what I'm trying to say is that if while now looking at it from an outside point of view and actually thinking about, is this all worth taking all these things for what you get out of, like that you actually get in the second show, that you achieve with all these
but
things.
The 4 finales is really good.
I know. However,
doing 5 club backcrossers on stage and telling people that it's really hard is really good.
I understand, but you're carrying around the clubs anyway.
Yeah, true.
So you can do that. What I'm trying to say is that you have lots of also other props with high maintenance.
Yes.
That you keep carrying around for literally not
20
even
seconds.
20 seconds.
Yeah, true.
And the relation of what you get out of it, what the audience gets out of it, what your show story-wise gets out of it, I don't think the relation is good here.
Yeah.
So what you're doing now is you're looking at the big picture and being true to yourself, if certain things are worth the hassle and if it's actually adding anything to it, or if it's just there because it is, it's the 4 finales and it fits so well together.
Yeah.
And
I can still perform the 4 finales, but I have to decide that I'm going to perform them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've got many routines that I don't perform anymore, except when I decide to do it. Like, if it's something special, like if I get invited to a juggling convention, that might be the time for a magnet machine or a 4 finales.
Yeah.
Because that's like a really good story
and also,
to tell jugglers.
You're not making a decision for like ever.
No.
You're trying it out.
Let's do it.
Out how would it feel to travel with fewer things.
I mean, it's still quite a bit.
It's still quite a bit, but also it's the piles are looking also more equal in comparison, to one another. If you're looking at there's show 1 and there's show 2, why does show 2 has to be so overbearing with things?
Well, because it's easier to do more. Like, the more equipment that you have, the easier it is to fill more time.
So actually,
like
the
you're
making it easier for yourself. Is that what you're now trying to? Is that what you're saying there?
Well, the easiest thing is to do video pieces where I don't have to take any equipment at all.
Yes, of course. But at the moment, you're doing the opposite. You're carrying a lot of things and filling the time with getting the brunt finish set up.
It's a lot of equipment.
It is a lot of things.
Yeah, because I don't need to then take the ball pump and the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't have to feel ashamed that the spinning ball is so old and it's
really difficult to find new and replace.
Finding new spinning balls for jugglers is literally the hardest
really
thing
hard.
in the world.
So, I just see you like literally struggle through all these things. Like, you order the balls and they're not all the same, and then you send them back, and then it's like all these actions just for this one routine in the second show that you might or might not.
I put so much effort and so much work into it.
I know you do, but
and that's kind of why I like still performing it, because I'm really proud to be able to do it.
Because you worked so hard on it that you have the feeling like you need to get the best out of that. Right, so you need to show it.
Maybe I've already got my money's worth out of the run finish.
I think you have, and also you can always take this and perform it at the juggling conventions.
Yeah.
People love it there. But I think for also again, you're performing here for non-juggler audience, and of course people see, oh, it's lots of things. But the appreciation really to understand how difficult it is to juggle all these things.
Yeah.
Much higher with jugglers,
right?
With normal people, they see, oh yeah, it's this, and then he does that, but then it's like this. It's so short.
Yeah,
I think it's not really worth all the.
All right.
effort.
All right.
I'm not want to talk.
No. I like it. I decided again. I've got a weekend before this gig.
Yeah.
I can always just take all this stuff with me and do it, and then fly to the UK with it afterwards, and then fly back on Ryanair with it all. Like if I need to. But if this time next week when I'm doing my final packing, because I'm leaving, was it Friday morning or something? Friday morning flight, and it's now Thursday evening.
Yeah.
So if in 7 days' time I'm feeling really good about this, I'm just gonna not take all the stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna take this reduced, but it's not even reduced because this is what I used to do anyway.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's not like
That's what
it's
I'm
not
saying.
like massively reduced.
Because
it's like just reordering.
In like over time, you added these things onto it.
Yes.
Right?
Like I mistakenly fell backwards into doing the 4 finales in my cruise ship show when that was never really the plan. That was always like for something for jugglers and for the British Juggling Convention.
Yes.
But it got such a good response from the cruise ship audience that I ended up taking out Zanzibar instead.
Yeah.
And I think I need to put back in Zanzibar, like just
Which
relearn the words.
Which also gets a good reaction.
Always gets a good reaction.
Yeah.
Right. That's it then. It's decided.
Okay.
Second show is tennis balls in the can, which is always a fun warm-up for the audience.
Yeah.
Ping pong.
Yeah.
Club juggling.
Yes.
Zanzibar.
Yes.
Maybe 9 balls, but definitely the Gatto balance trick.
Yes.
And then knife juggling on the roller bowler because it's funny at the end.
And if that timing-wise works out, I think that should be the way to go, because then you're like literally, beforehand it was like you think of it this way: you had lots of clay and you added it to the statue, like you were building like a statue and added to it, and it got a good reaction because it looked fun and new and different. And what you're now doing is
you're sculpting away. I'm removing everything which isn't my second show.
Yes,
I get it, and I like it.
Good.
All right then. Should we wrap it up there?
Yes, I think so.
Good conversation. And again, this is what we could have just had this conversation on the couch, but it's a lot more fun to just get out all this stuff and show it here
and share it with the people. This is our
they
process.
Can't see it, but I might take a photo of stuff I need for my first show, stuff I need in the second show, and stuff that I don't need in the second show or whatever, like that.
The sculpturing of a show.
Yeah. Remove everything which isn't the second show.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Thanks a lot to our Patreon supporters.
Yes.
Head over to patreon.com/Luke Burridge.
Yeah.
In the next week, I'll share a video about the balance pole.
Oh yeah.
And I'm working on some other video projects, but I don't know. There's just
Remember,
a lot going on.
you have a week before the next gig.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a lot going on in my
things.
life at the moment. I'm having to go over and visit my mother again in a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
Help her out with a shed and things. So I'm doing family stuff this year as well.
Yeah.
But it's good to get back to work. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. Thanks a lot for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye.